Oh, so you want to know what really makes a woman go crazy over a man? All right then. Take a seat, breathe in, and brace that ego of yours, because here comes a straight-up slap to the face. With a steel glove, no velvet, obviously.
No, my man. It's not about having abs so perfect they could be in a laundry detergent ad, nor a bank account that looks like a GTA cheat code. It's also not about some sweet talk like, "Good morning, princess," or those flowers you swiped from the corner florist. The truth, my emotional Padawan, is harsher than chewing on raw kale for breakfast.
It's all about emotional mystery. Yep, that's right. That sphinx-like attitude with a dash of PMS, indecipherable, unflappable, and completely immune to someone else's emotional theatrics. We're talking about the guy who sees her little manipulation game and responds with the emotional equivalent of a yawn. She leaves you on scene and doesn't reply. In his mind, he's like, "Meh, whatever," and moves on to something more useful like trimming his toenails. She hits him with, "Hey, stranger." He'll reply whenever he feels like it. Maybe next week, maybe never. She posts some indirect message dripping with more venom than a snake in an existential crisis. And he just lives, moves on, because he's not a sucker. This rare, almost mythical creature has something that our anxious, digital-obsessed society lost somewhere along the path of dignity: emotional calm. And that, my friend, is like holding a mirror up to a woman's ego, confusing, uncomfortable, and it makes her think. And once she starts thinking, it's game over, because then she starts feeling. And once she feels, oh, that's when the game flips. This stoic man, icy cool and surgically uninterested in her little emotional tantrums, is the guy who doesn't give airtime to her drama. And guess what? That drives her insane. Because there's nothing more seductive than someone who couldn't care less if you're trying to get attention. But here's a heads up for you, who showed up thinking you'd find a magical formula like 3 steps to become a Greek god of love. Nah, man. Go find some Instagram seduction guru if that's what you want. Because seductive stoicism isn't for dudes who start sobbing to Marilia Mendonça songs in the shower. This is for the man who's sick of being treated like a disposable napkin from a fast food joint. Oh, and before we move on, let's make one thing clear. This video is here because somebody had the decency to click the damn like button and subscribe. Now it's your turn to stop being a digital parasite and do your part. Smash that like, subscribe, and drop a thanks in the comments. It's not for me, it's for the algorithm. Because if it's up to you alone, this reality check won't reach anyone else, and we'll stay in a world full of emotional guys and bored women. Now, enough beating around the bush. Let's go straight to that gut punch for your self-esteem. Number 1, the pathetic fairy tale of romantic sensitivity. Oh, sensitivity. That glittery pink-bowed delight sold to you by rom-coms and emotional Instagram gurus. They looked you in the eye and told you that women love sensitive men, that the secret was opening your heart like a teen's diary with a plastic lock. Be gentle, teary-eyed, an ocean of vulnerability. And you, sweet innocent soul, believed it. Now look at you, frustrated, emotionally wrecked, wondering why, despite being the nice guy, she ended up paying attention to that emotional ogre who can barely type a full sentence. Sit down, because here comes the sugar-free truth. A man who's overly accessible is basically the emotional equivalent of a comfy couch. Useful, predictable, and completely libido-killing. Yep, buddy. Comfort doesn't equal desire. A woman wants excitement, wants doubt, wants that rush of not knowing if you're gonna reply or vanish into the notification abyss. She wants tension, that subtle psychological game, that, does he like me or is he just being polite? Because what she craves, my friend, is the riddle, not the tutorial. And then there's you. The modern sensitive type, shaped by TikTok advice and Disney movies. You give your all. You lay everything on the table like it's a job interview for a relationship. The result? She takes your resume and files it away in the darkest drawer. But calm down. It's not about becoming a barbaric ogre. It's about timing, scarcity, and above all, emotional authority. Yes, authority. Because if you spill your heart out on the very first date, congrats. You've become emotional entertainment. No mystery, no tension, no shot. The Stoic man. He plays in boss mode. He doesn't need to shout it from the rooftops. He just exists. Silently. With a calm that gets under her skin. He's not begging for attention because he's already figured out that valuing yourself means being selective. Not an emotional 24/7 delivery service. She doesn't want that cutesy friend who replies with 17 emojis and a kitty gif. She wants the human puzzle. The guy who has her staring at the ceiling at 3 a.m. thinking, is he thinking about me? And while you're sending her an essay full of sweet nothings and heart emojis, the Stoic man exhales. Maybe he sees the message. Maybe he doesn't even bother, because he only shows up when it's worth it. And that, my dude, is what makes her want more. Being wanted isn't about giving everything away. It's about knowing when to give nothing at all. Because if you offer yourself too much, you become a freebie. And the Stoic? He's a rare item. You need a password to unlock him. Number 2, Stoicism, the superpower that makes her lose it in silence. Ever notice how some guys always look like they're in ultimate Zen mode, even when the world's on fire? Everything's collapsing, yet the guy's as calm as if he's just waiting on his toast to pop. Yeah, man, that's not an inborn talent. It has a name, Stoicism. And yes, it's practically a genetic mutation these days, at a time when every alpha bro is posting emotional Instagram stories. But let's get one thing straight. Stoicism isn't about being cold, it's about being bulletproof. It's about mastering your emotions without becoming their slave. The Stoic observes his own feelings like someone watching a dolphin in an aquarium, curious, but staying dry. The world might be crashing down, but he responds with the same vibe as someone who lost their phone charger, but still has 80% battery left. Now here's the kicker. When you add the female factor, Stoicism becomes a chemical weapon. Because the Stoic dude doesn't bend to sulking faces, doesn't lose it over being left on red, and sure as hell doesn't freak out over vague posts on Instagram. While the average chump is writing Shakespearean monologues over a scene at 2:38 p.m., the Stoic is at the gym, or reading, or working doing anything more productive, honestly. Because for him, if she vanished, so what? Life goes on. And with dignity, which already puts him in the top 1% of emotional stability. And here's where it gets delightful. It bothers her. A lot. Because he's not rude, he's free. He doesn't need a pat on the back, a "you good babe," or female approval to exist. And once she realizes that, oh boy, the silent panic begins. While 99% of men have already handed over their emotional power at the first hint of interest, the Stoic just sits back and watches. He doesn't chase, he selects. He doesn't beg for company, he allows it. He doesn't run after he strolls. And if she wants to walk alongside him, cool. If not, her loss. The secret, he's good with her, but he's even better without her. And here lies the real terror. The Stoic is the man who isn't controlled because he doesn't need controlling. That messes with everything she's been taught about how to handle men. She can't manipulate him. She can't predict him. She can't figure him out. So she only has one option left. Try to win him over. Because when she loses control, she craves the challenge. And the Stoic? He's known that ever since the first "Hey stranger." Number 3, strategic silence. The art of saying more than a chatterbox, without uttering a word. Ah, silence. This underrated gem, completely ignored by the digital desperados who live on reply within 3 seconds or she'll forget me forever mode. But the Stoic? Oh, the Stoic is different. He wields silence like a samurai wields a katana, with elegance, composure, and zero need to prove anything to anyone. And not just any silence, we're talking strategic silence. The kind that screams without making a sound, that disrupts more than a passive-aggressive essay, that's worth more than any cutesy declaration with heart emojis and puppy gifs. While the average dude scrambles to reply to her LOL at 3 a.m., thinking that niceness is some grand strategy, the Stoic takes a breath, observes, calculates, because he knows the faster you react, the cheaper you sell yourself. And a man on emotional clearance only attracts bargain hunters at the end of the day. Strategic silence is like that split-second pause in a great song. It's what builds tension, expectation, room for imagination to run wild. And, my friend, a woman's mind is a nuclear power plant of imagination. If you go quiet, she starts thinking. If you vanish, she starts creating scenarios. If you don't react, she starts to panic. And guess what? She starts wanting you. Because nothing intrigues a woman more than not knowing. The Stoic doesn't ignore out of spite. He ignores for sport, by choice. With emotional intelligence as sharp as a butcher's knife. He knows that being too present wears you out, that always being there turns you into emotional furniture. She shoots a hey, expecting the usual cliches, and all she gets is dead air. Hours go by, and what was just a hey transforms into an existential earthquake. Does he find me annoying? Is he with someone else? Am I falling for him? Boom, a surgical dose of silence. Desire ignited. And no, it's not about being a jerk. It's about balance. About realizing that sometimes the most powerful move is doing nothing and letting them scramble around trying to figure you out. The Stoic silence isn't absence. It's a statement. A selective, mysterious, magnetic presence. He only speaks when he has something to say, not when he needs to be noticed. While the masses are out there in a frenzy of notice me, reply to me, validate me, the Stoic stays quiet. And in that quiet, he says it all. I don't need you to be complete, but if you want to join my world, you'll have to earn it. Number 4, the Stoic gaze, the silent terror of a man who can't be shaken. Forget about spewing 1,000 words with trembling voice and that silly grin of someone who's begging for acceptance. You want to see real power? Look at the eyes of a Stoic man. That steady, calm gaze that's totally indifferent to showing off or seeking approval. It's not just a look. It's emotional X-ray vision. There's no anxious sparkle, no throbbing expectation, no desperation for validation. It just exists. Present. Whole. Solid as stone and so cold it can freeze her emotional games in seconds. That gaze, my friend, disarms, because she's used to the typical reactive type, the goofball who changes his voice, sweats bullets at the temples, and morphs into an emotional poodle just because she laughed. The Stoic? He barely blinks. He observes, reads the situation, calculates. And if there's a need, he'll respond. If not, he stays in Sphinx mode. On a date, that gaze doesn't create small talk, it creates sexual tension. In an argument, it doesn't spark screaming. It breeds discomfort. And in flirting, it doesn't scream neediness, it's raw magnetism. Because the Stoic isn't trying to conquer. He's just there, fully present, as if saying, you can come or go, I don't move for breadcrumbs. And that, of course, makes her snap. Because when someone doesn't react, you break their game. If you don't join the dance, you pull the rug out from under them. And when she loses control, she wants it back. And in that wanting, everything flips, you become the prize. The Stoic gaze says loud and clear, I respect myself. I don't kneel. And you don't get a free pass here just because you exist. He sees, but he doesn't worship. He notices, but he doesn't flatter. Because the Stoic doesn't look at her like he's begging, he looks at her like he knows. And that leaves a mark. It sticks in her memory even after he's walked off into the sunset, like the emotional ghost she'll never forget. Now, if you're sick of being the puppy wagging his tail for the tiniest crumb of attention, done being the nice guy who keeps taking an emotional karate kick to the face, do yourself a favor. There's a digital book linked in the description that'll teach you to stop being a doormat with glitter. Learn how to flip the script, put women in their rightful place, no tantrums, just posture, and finally understand what real respect means. Because, let's face it, the world's full of poor souls thinking being a nice guy is somehow charming. Spoiler, it's not. Either you wake up now, or keep playing the clown. The choice is yours, champ. The Stoic? He made that choice ages ago. Number 5. Emotion under control. How to drive needy souls insane. Without even flinching. There's a little game every woman plays. Some do it subtly, others do it with the finesse of an out-of-control dump truck. But the goal is the same, to test your reaction. Oh yeah. She'll take ages to reply, vanish for 2 days, switch up her tone for no reason, drop a dry that feels ripped straight from a spreadsheet. And what's she looking for? Your outrage, a wall of text, some sob story accompanied by a broken heart gif. Nope. My dude, she wants to see if you'll lose your cool, if you'll crumble like a house of cards at the slightest breeze of coldness. And as always, most men do exactly that. She disappears. Hey, stranger. She goes cold. Did I do something wrong, babe? She provokes you. There's the emotional guy, explaining, justifying, apologizing for breathing. Spoiler. A man who overreacts becomes an extra in his own story. In the world of attraction, predictability is a death sentence. It's like playing the background role in your own desire. Nobody wants that. The Stoic, though. He's in a different league. He knows that not reacting is power. That staying calm in the middle of an emotional storm is the real test of masculinity, not this nonsense of freaking out over every seen message. She tries to poke. He smiles. Tries to stir up jealousy. He watches like someone casually checking out a crochet tutorial. Tries to stir up drama. He listens and goes on living. Because his peace isn't on sale in the emotional bargain bin. And that, my friend, shakes her to the core. Because when she sees she can't rattle you with the same moves that work on 99% of men, she's forced to level up, to stop playing dirty and start playing fair. Because if she can't drag you into the drama, she's going to have to sync with your calm. And right then, the game flips, not because you yelled the loudest, but because you didn't need to raise your voice at all to be heard. Your calm becomes command. Your composure becomes a fascination. The Stoic isn't some emotionless robot. He's the master of balance. And these days, that's rarer than honesty on a dating app. When a woman meets a man like that, she feels 2 things: admiration and fear. Fear of losing someone she can't manipulate. And in a world where manipulation is a sport, being unshakable is the ultimate superpower. Number 6, a mysterious presence. The emotional ghost. She can't exercise. The classic mistake of the modern man, thinking that to be remembered, he needs to become a recurring sticker in her emotional scrapbook. There's the poor guy, trying so hard, sending good morning, good afternoon, good night, hope you had a good meal, and if he could, how's your Q-tip usage? He's liking every selfie as if it's a contractual obligation. He's commenting on her breakfast pic with, yummy. Spoiler, the more you show up, the less impact you make. Yep, champ. Because the human brain, and let's face it, a woman's brain has a PhD in emotional perception values what's rare, not what's digital furniture. The Stoic? He plays the game of selective presence. He's not some soft-hearted stalker. He's not an emotional hermit either. He's like a well-placed storm, shows up with intensity, then disappears, leaving just enough chaos behind. Not in a toxic way, more like a mental whirlwind that makes her wonder why on earth she can't stop thinking about him, while the desperate guys are sending "I miss you" stickers and Spotify playlists of heartbreak songs. The Stoic gracefully evaporates after making a solid impression. He shows up, ignites a spark, and then vanishes. The result? She can't stop analyzing, rethinking, replaying that moment in her head. He's the guy who was magnetic on the date but didn't send that "loved meeting you" text the next day. The guy who listened to her deep confession and just smiled with that look of someone who understood everything, but won't say a word. The one who appears once and has her losing sleep for a week, wondering how a man can be so present, even in his absence. That's the power of a mysterious presence. Because presence isn't about quantity, it's about intensity and timing. It's about knowing when to be there and, most importantly, when to exit the stage. The Stoic doesn't vanish because he's a jerk. He vanishes because he's a master of attention. He knows if he's around 24/7, he becomes background noise. But if he shows up at the right moment, he becomes a memory. And a memory, my friend, can't be blocked, muted, or ignored. While you're out there being the sweet guy who's always around, the Stoic is the emotional enigma she can't figure out. And guess what? The human brain loves a good mystery. That's why even when he's not there, he's still present. Not in her WhatsApp, not on her feed, but in the place that really matters, her mind. Number 7, mastering mind games. How to stop being the emotional puppet and become the chess master. Modern relationships are basically emotional chess with a ticking time bomb. Every message, every seen and not replied, every "I'm confused" is a move on the board. And here's the issue, champ. Most men stumble onto that board like oblivious pigeons, clueless there's even a game being played, let alone how it works. Result? They become pawns. And pawns, as you know, are the first pieces to get sacrificed and the last to be remembered. Women test you, always, consciously or not. It's an emotional scanner running 24/7. How you react, how much you can handle, how fast you crumble. Every bit of silence is a test. Every bit of teasing is an exam. And guess who flunks right out of the gate? The clingy, emotional guy. The one who reacts to everything, trying to please, begging for, "Are we still okay?" Like it's the last loaf of bread on earth. He's playing by her rules, constantly chasing. And worse, he thinks he's killing it. Now, the Stoic. The Stoic doesn't play. He reshapes the board. He doesn't react. He observes. He doesn't bite the bait. He watches the circus catch fire and calmly asks, "Did you light the match?" She ghosts him. He's not writing some heartfelt novel nor sending heartbreak gifts. She tries to trigger jealousy. He meets it with the same interest he'd give a random craft video. She throws drama bombs. He might just shrug. Because for someone with emotional control, petty drama is background noise. Then the script breaks. The formula she successfully used on all the other losers doesn't work on him. Because he doesn't play her game. He's imposing his own. And guess what happens? She starts to dance to his rhythm. She replies faster. She starts chasing. She wonders, what do I have to do to make him react? And right there, the tables turn. Not because you manipulated her, but because you have mastery over yourself. The Stoic discovered the secret. Whoever needs to react has already lost. Whoever holds their ground wins. While the other guys are scrambling to court her, to prove themselves, to please, and please again, the Stoic has already conquered without budging. Because the highest power, my friend, isn't moving your pieces. It's being the only one at the table who doesn't need to play to win. Number 8, king behavior. You weren't made to react. You were made to reign. Picture a king on his throne. Now imagine him jumping up at every comment from the peasants, freaking out over a WhatsApp read receipt, leaving voice notes 3 minutes long to justify why he disappeared. Ridiculous, right? Exactly. Welcome to how most men act today. A cardboard king, no crown, begging for attention. The Stoic, my man, is the total opposite. He doesn't step down from the throne just because of some noise. He hears the chaos, sees the drama, but doesn't let it poison him. And if he does take action, he does it with such calculated calm, it feels like he already knew how this story would end. Spoiler, he did. While the emotionally driven are basically needy poodles, the Stoic is a lion in the royal court. He doesn't ask for attention, he commands presence. He doesn't explain himself, he sets boundaries. He doesn't try to convince anyone to like him. He just exists with such internal authority that there's only one possible reaction: respect or jealousy. Most men behave like they're in an emotional reality show, chasing every compliment, every like, every crumb of female validation. The Stoic, he acts like he knows he's the prize, which is why he chooses who gets to stand by his side. He doesn't settle for whoever smiles first. He doesn't chase after anyone who ignores him. Because a true king doesn't chase a sulky subject. He doesn't beg for attention. Because to him, attention is a byproduct, not a goal. He doesn't get sucked into drama, because his throne is bulletproof against meltdowns. And with that alone, he's telling you everything. No words, no shouting, just posture. My energy is rare, and it's not handed out like party favors. That might as well be tattooed on the Stoic's forehead. But it doesn't need to be. Because he lives it. He breathes it. He is it. And when a woman realizes she's dealing with a man who doesn't kneel, who doesn't lower himself, who doesn't warp himself to fit her, but instead invites her to rise to his level, she understands she's facing something scarce. Something you don't just find on a dating app or at a bar. She realizes that this man wasn't made to grovel. He was made to be revered. Number 9. 3 phrases that turn a man into an emotional doormat, which you must never ever say. There are certain things that, once they come out of a man's mouth, murder attraction faster than morning breath at 7 a.m. They look cute, polite, caring, but in practice they reek of neediness, insecurity, and emotional desperation. And nothing kills a woman's interest faster than noticing you've become her personal fan club. Deadly phrase number 1. Why did you disappear? Oh, buddy, how pitiful. This one's basically an official certificate of, I've been sitting here, anxious, phone in hand, waiting for you to notice me. You basically gift wrap your heart and beg her to toy with it. Congrats, you just downgraded yourself emotionally, showing that your life was on hold waiting for a reply. The Stoic? He barely noticed she went AWOL because his life is more interesting than some silly absence. Deadly phrase number 2. I missed you. Translation: you vanished, you ignored me, maybe you hooked up with someone else, and I'm still here, drooling over you. Telling this to a woman who obviously pulled away on purpose is like saying, keep doing that. It worked. You're handing over emotional control like tossing in the towel during an MMA fight. She can come and go as she pleases, and you'll always be there like a golden retriever, wagging your tail for attention. Deadly phrase number 3. Did I do something wrong? This is just pathetic. You're automatically blaming yourself without even knowing what's up. You're basically kneeling emotionally and saying, you have the power to make me question my very existence. It's the pinnacle of emotional submission. And you know who feels attracted to an emotionally submissive guy? Exactly, nobody. Now pay attention. The Stoic never utters any of those, ever. Because he doesn't beg for presence. He doesn't cry over absence. He doesn't throw a tantrum over silence. If she vanished, great. One less distraction. If she wants to play games, good luck playing alone. He understands one simple truth that 99% of guys haven't grasped. Who needs to vanish isn't missed. And whoever demands, say you missed me, doesn't deserve the silence that follows. You want respect? Start talking, or better yet, not talking, like a man with real value. The Stoic doesn't question. He observes. He doesn't complain. He decides. And above all, he never kneels. Because the moment you kneel, you lose your crown. Number 10. 3 moves that make her tremble, without you saying a word, while other guys beg for attention. You've heard that communication is everything? Scrap that. In an era where everyone's talking too much and saying too little, what really attracts isn't what you say, it's what you don't have to say. The Stoic operates on that level. He doesn't sell himself, he's noticed. And best of all, without any effort, no chatter, no attention begging. Want to make her knees weak without uttering a syllable? Jot down these 3 emotional power moves. Pop in and out of conversations like a man with a full calendar and low tolerance for nonsense. No rambling texts, no flowery, "Good morning, sunshine." Messages with 3 paragraphs and a poem attached. The Stoic shows up, says what needs to be said, and leaves like he's got another meeting with destiny. He's not there to please, he's there because he wants to be. And when he leaves naturally, no fanfare, she feels the gap. And she wonders, what's he up to? Why'd he leave so soon? Bingo. Curiosity planted. Where curiosity grows, desire takes root. Never justify anything, ever. She drops a passive-aggressive question like, "Wow, you're really quiet, huh?" The emotional guy tries to explain, justify, prove it's not really like that. The Stoic, he just smiles, maybe lifts an eyebrow, maybe not even that, because he knows explaining yourself to someone who hasn't earned it is basically selling your dignity for pennies. His silence says, interpret it however you want, I'm still me. That mystery is gripping. Always be the one who ends interactions first. Don't wait for her to say, "I gotta go." Don't drag out the chat just to hang around. The Stoic pulls the ultimate emotional checkmate and ends it first. Not out of arrogance, but because he has focus, direction, and no need to cling for attention. He decides when it's over. He wraps up the date like a pro. He hangs up the call without drama. By doing so, he sends a clear message. I'm here because I choose to be, not because I need to be. These moves create a pattern, a kind of selective, mysterious presence that keeps her wondering whether you'll come back. And that not knowing is the jet fuel of desire. While the desperate guys rub themselves all over social media to be noticed, the Stoic becomes an obsession, simply because he knows the perfect moment to vanish. Looking for fascination? Zip your mouth, disappear, and watch. Because whoever masters silence controls the game. Number 11. Stoicism in relationships. Yes, you can love, without becoming an emotional crybaby. Actually, you must. There's a lie being shoved down society's throat these days. If you're not an emotional roller coaster, you don't truly love. As if to prove your love, you have to become some soap opera actor with jealousy breakdowns, shaky voice, and a meltdown every 5 minutes. Spoiler, that's not love. That's neediness with a romantic Instagram filter. Does the Stoic love? Absolutely. But with a brain. With backbone. With dignity. He doesn't turn into his partner's emotional doormat just to prove he's all in. He doesn't dive headfirst into the relationship like jumping into a pool of emotional acid, hoping to find daisies at the bottom. Because he's realized something simple that 99% of people haven't. Loving isn't about losing yourself. It's about staying true to yourself. The Stoic loves with awareness, with boundaries, with the firmness of someone who knows that genuine love doesn't require self-torture. While most folks today love like they're screaming, "Notice me or I'll die," the Stoic loves like he's saying, "I'm here, but I'm whole. And if loving you means tearing myself to pieces, I'd rather love you silently and keep my peace." Modern relationships have turned into emotional horror shows. People freaking out over a seen message with no reply, threatening to break up at every silence, crying because they didn't get a "good morning, babe." All this in the name of true love, which is really just codependency wearing cheap poetry. The Stoic doesn't buy that. He doesn't shout, "I love you" at the end of every conversation just to fill the emptiness. When he says it, he means it. Because every word he speaks carries weight precisely because he doesn't speak on impulse. He doesn't need to know her whereabouts 24/7. You know why? Because he knows exactly where he is. Centered, steady, unshakable, and that changes everything. Being with someone who doesn't fall apart is rare. Magnetic, even. Because in a world where everyone's begging to be completed, the Stoic is the guy who's already complete. And he invites, doesn't beg someone to share that space. Yes, it's absolutely possible to love as a Stoic. In fact, it's the only type of love worth having. The rest is disguised neediness. The Stoic doesn't love any less. He just won't love at his own expense. And that's exactly why, my friend. His love is worth more than 1,000 tearful confessions. It's worth that firm silence, that unwavering gaze, that place where two grow without drowning each other. The harsh truth: most men are stuck in an emotional circus without realizing they're the clown. Day after day, it's the same crap. The guy sends messages, gets ignored, tries harder, gets left on ice again. He reacts more, begs a bit louder, and gets what exactly? Right. Polite indifference from someone who already knows he's always at her beck and call. This cycle is a dignity shredder. And these guys don't even see they're self-destructing with a smile, convinced they're fighting for love. It's more like a cringe comedy show. Then comes the Stoic, the one who shuts down this ridiculous circus. He understands that being unforgettable has nothing to do with emotional intensity, crying on WhatsApp, or corny love poems in her photo comments. It has to do with a solid presence, with silence that weighs more than 1,000 words, with the ability to simply not bow to her inflated ego. She might be gorgeous, swarmed by compliments, with 300 dudes sliding into her DMs. She might have 10 guys on hold, 5 waiting for a reply, and 2 doing a little dance for her attention. But the Stoic? He's the one she remembers, because he never begged, never became just another number in line. He just existed so strongly that he was impossible to ignore. The Stoic doesn't freak out over being left on red, because he knows what's meant for him stays, and what leaves was just leftover baggage, emotional junk with an expiration date. If you made it this far, it's because the reality check smacked you in the face. Good. Because the truth is simple. It's not about being wanted by everyone. It's about being respected by the few who matter. And that respect starts the moment you respect yourself. So be brutally honest in the comments. Are you going to be remembered or forgotten in the next wave of notifications alongside all the other desperate guys? And if this video snapped you out of your emotional clown mode, share it with a buddy who's still rehearsing a soap opera scene over a missing like. Oh, and obviously, subscribe to the channel. We don't peddle little seduction tricks here. We shape men who know their worth. And when one of those men passes by, the whole world feels it, even if he doesn't say a word. Now drop a comment below. I stopped being a clown, just so I know who's ready to take the throne and stop being an extra in the theater of neediness.